through this growing stage, you want to be developing those people that could eventually lead without you.
You know, every BCBA that does this, I'm so glad that you're out there helping some of the most vulnerable people. But you're not going to do this forever. Who's going to take this on when I'm no longer there? Because it thriving means the families are getting the services that they desperately need. You have to work yourself out of a job. It's so important.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders. I'm April.
I'm Steven.
How are you?
Super.
Are you great? Are you wonderful?
I'm awesome.
How are you guys listening? How are you? Hopefully you're doing well. It's a very rainy fall up here in Atlanta, Canada. Just pouring rain. So, yeah, good times. All right. So today we are continuing our Back to Basics series. I'm loving it. It's really flowing nicely. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that people like to hear about how each topic applies to each stage of grower. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I have. It's really cool. All right. Well, welcome to the Back to Basics 2025 edition series. This is where we go back to the foundations of running an ABA business, whether you're dreaming about starting a company or already running one, or preparing for what's next. We'll meet you where you are. And the truth, the earlier you start working on these foundations, the better your chances of success, the fewer problems you'll face, and the smoother your growth will be. That was awkward, right? Seriously, though, it's just like clinical practice. Early intervention makes the difference. So in each episode, we focus on one core business topic and talk about what it means if you're starting, scaling, or transitioning. So no matter where you are in your journey, you walk away with clarity and next steps.
Cool.
Yeah. So do you want to know today's topic?
Sure.
Yeah. Today's topic is, drumroll please, building relationships that last. So, policies and procedures and insurance and training and I don't know, the list goes on and on, are all super important things when you're running an ABA business. But the people, your team, I would say, is quite an important part of your business. Your team isn't just the people that you hire. It's the foundation of your company's reputation, culture, and long-term success. The truth is there's a lot of truth today. Who you surround yourself with will shape everything. How your company feels, how it grows, how it handles challenges. So I can't remember where this quote comes from, but I've heard it from multiple sources that like you are like the top 5 people you spend the most time with. Like,
All right.
Yeah, you've never heard that? There's some kind of quote about that. You are.
I was gonna say there's a quote about A players only hire A players.
Oh.
Yeah, and then when you hire your first B player, then things go downhill because B players won't hire A players.
Oh, that makes sense.
Anyway.
So you are who you surround yourself with.
Oh, that sure.
Yeah, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That was like what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean,
or show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you surround yourself with a bunch of negative, gossipy people, you're probably a negative, gossipy person. No judgment here, but if you enjoy that kind of stuff, then that's kind of who you wind up with. Actually,
as I'm doing a Google search as we talk, some might say you're not the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Okay. Not in the way that you think. That it doesn't stop there at the 5 people. They're saying that it's more of those 5 people and then those 5 people. It's more of an outreaching thing, which really does kind of make sense, even like in an organization, right? Because you have the different levels of people that you are reaching. And, there are different ways that you're going to interact in different roles with different people.
Yeah, I assume since you are literally controlling who you get to see the majority of your waking life by hiring them, then you're probably hiring people that would be like-minded.
Yeah. Well, when you're intentional about who's on your team, you get to build like what you want, the trust, the alignment, the leadership. Like you're wanting to build that whole framework.
think even if you're not intentional about it, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Still, yeah. So it can work either way, right? Yeah.
Like somebody's driving the bus, whether you know it or not.
Right. So, but I guess it's you, if you're intentional about it, then you potentially have more say in the matter or more control in the matter. And yeah, if you're not intentional about it, there's still something that's driving it, but it might not be where you're wanting it to go.
Totally. Yeah. Well,
and that kind of goes back to like the A person and the B person, the whatever person, because I wonder, I'd like to know more about that, because I wonder if it's more of a subconscious thing, right? That I'm sure there are some people who...
It might have been a Gary Vee thing. I don't remember anymore. Gary Vee's had a lot of...
And so I didn't know if it's like, because I mean, it could be very much a thing that you can acknowledge that, I'm not gonna hire somebody who's better than me. Like there's people out there like that, right? But I would think more often it would be a thing where it's just you don't realize that you're doing is more subconscious, like your ego or something, right? Somewhere in there you're like, I want to stay on the top, so I'm not going to hire people better than me. But if you make that intention of, this is the type of person I want to hire, these are the type of people I want on my team. Mm-hmm. And in the mom space, there are several, I don't know what you want to call them, content creators, influencers, whatever, right? And I'm not sure where it came from. So there may be someone who I can't give credit to this idea, but they say that you should have like a mom friend who's older and her kids have already left the nest. You could have a mom friend who's just starting her journey. You should have a mom friend who's got children the same age as you. A mom friend who is the same age as you. Like having a variety of community as you're building your network of moms, right? What is the word? Village. Thank you. Now I can move on. Your village. That's what I was looking for. All right. So for those beginners, let's say you are in the spot where you haven't hired anyone yet, right? And you are, I would say, in that sweet spot where you get to start out fresh, right? We'll talk about growers later, and doesn't mean that you can't make changes, right? But it is definitely a lot easier in the beginning to set some of these things up, right? So when you're first starting out, hiring feels huge, right? Of course, because it is huge. The people that you bring in early help define your company's identity. And I don't know that many people think that when they're hiring someone. They're like, I got to get someone in to cover these cases. I've got to get some techs in to do the services. I've got to get the BCBA in if you're not, if you're hiring an extra BCBA or you're not a BCBA, to make all the things happen, right? To be able to run this company.
I mean, typically though, those are not going to be your first hires, right? Like you're going to hire a credentialer. You're going to hire an attorney that's going to start maybe your LLC or your PLLC, right? You're going to.
Well, I guess we're like, I guess then what you're saying is hiring loosely, like, right? Like you're not meaning like necessarily hiring your team. It's more like hiring those, like, your network of people. Cause like.
Correct. Yeah. So it's not just the techs that you're going to eventually hire once you're credentialed and you have cases, but it's how you build out the infrastructure of your team, right? What mentor are you going to work with? Because I urge you to work with a mentor, right? Who are you going to use as your practice management software, right? Like all of these things are also a part are going to be an important part of your team, right? So
they are definitely going to be a part of your team. But when you are hiring techs and admin staff and clinicians, so those who are going to be your people that you work with day to day, that are your staff, what qualities do you want in these individuals, right? And of course, we talk about values-based hiring and values-based leadership and all of that. And so this definitely can coincide with your values, right? It would make sense too, right?
Yeah.
but we're kind of just looking at it at a different angle. And something kind of like where I was going with that mom example, right? You want people in your group that challenge you to think differently. That's a really great thing, right? Because if we all think the same, then when we are faced with a challenging situation and we're all looking at it from the same perspective, then it's going to be one-sided or like, right. But if we have multiple people with multiple perspectives, who think differently, it just makes a really well-rounded team to be able to discuss those ideas and come up with solutions maybe that you don't think about in the way you think, but this person sitting next to you who you hired might come at it a different way, right? And it just provides different angles. Something to ask yourself: how will I protect the culture that I'm trying to build as we grow? So kind of going into, before we go into scaling, your challenge for growers is to sit down and write 3 non-negotiable traits that you want every team member to share. For example, ethical, dependable, curious. And maybe you even...
It's too vague.
Break it. Well, that's what I was saying. I think you break it down into like examples. So let's say those are your values. It doesn't quite match, but let's just go with it. Like your values are like to be ethical, dependable, and curious. I guess that would work as values. Those would work as values. So now let's break it down another step. What behaviors do you want to see? What behaviors do you not want to see that matches those values? And then that's how you can come up with those 3 non-negotiable traits.
Yeah, I don't. And again, this may be where we don't think the same. Where I would go with this, because I'm not exactly sure what I want to see, right? I don't know. I couldn't paint you a picture exactly of what I want to see, but I can definitely paint you a picture of what I don't want to see, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want people showing up late. I want, when people tell me that they're going to do something, I need them to do it. Do you know what I mean? I don't want them to lie, right? I want them to complete their session notes, right? So I don't want them to have 5 days of session notes not completed, right? So it's easier for me to go on the negative side to start. And that may just be because I'm a little bit more pessimistic, right? So I finding what, for me, again, at least it's easier to say, okay, these are the traits I don't want to see. And then I can flip them and I can say, this is what I want to see. So that's all. If you're struggling with I don't know what this person, I want to see from this person. Maybe look at what you don't want to see. I don't want them cursing out when they go to the house and cursing out my families, right? Like I don't know what it is that you don't want to see, but that may be a starting point.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I do that sometimes too, right? Even though we do think differently about things and come at things in with different perspectives, that is a really helpful tool, because I think it's easy for us to, and we've talked about it so many times, but I think it's easy, for us to think about what we don't want to see or what we don't want to happen. And then we come up with the opposite of that. So scaling. So how will you protect the culture that you're trying to build as you grow? Oh, I am all over the place today. Let's go back to that practical tip. When you have those 3 non-negotiable traits that you want from your team members, then design interview questions or onboarding around these traits. So embed, some like checks within the onboarding of how can you screen for these behaviors during the onboarding. Does it, and which of those are like, okay, yeah, this isn't going to work out. Because sometimes it's a lot easier to let someone go within the first day or two than it is like once you spend all the time and money training them and getting them out with clients. Even if they're not clinical staff, it's, if you know from the beginning, that this person's not going to work out, then it's better to end it then. But let's say that there are just some things that you feel like could be improved. And so then you want to set up, opportunities to help work through these things and improve these things.
Yeah, I think your onboarding process should be as rigorous, or if not more rigorous than the job that this person has agreed to do. And so if you can mimic that in the onboarding process where they have to get things done quite quickly.
I was going to say time management is something that really shows up, right? Whether you're a tech and you have to manage like getting certain programs done within a certain amount of time, keeping within your session times itself, whether you're BCBA having to, time management for getting your treatment plans and re-auths done on time, or just making it to your sessions on time, or navigating all of that. There's so much time management. So how could you build in time management within that onboarding system? Instead of, oh, here's your paperwork, get it done and bring it back to me when you're done. Like set up time for them to come in the office, and they have a specific time so you can see if they show up on time. You can see, if they have questions, how they handle that. Because most people are going to be on their best behavior in the beginning. So if they're not able to do it. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't provide training if it's a skill deficit that we feel like overall those qualities are there. It's just a skill deficit that we could train. Then that's a different thing.
Yeah. But like even mimicking their in-home session schedule, when they're in their training. So, having them shadow, would be a good idea. So have them come to the office, then go to a midday shadow, then come back to the office, or have another shadow. So you can start that process again, see how they handle the transition period. Are they getting to their session on time? Those things would be very helpful to see before they're the primary on any case, right? Just, again, when you have a 60, like even a good, like the average small company has around 60% turnover. I can tell you that the biggest complaint that I've ever heard from a family receiving ABA is I've had 4 therapists in the last 6 months. Right? Like they don't know my child. They're doing things differently. Nothing's consistent. Right? So if you can weed these people out, because maybe they can't do it. That's okay. I'm sure they'll find something that they love.
Yeah, I think that's part of why we want to put, I know it's expensive. I know it really is expensive. In the long term, it's not as expensive as going through the entire training and then losing someone, 100%. Although sometimes that does happen.
Yep.
But the more training that you can give up front before your clinicians, before your clinical staff see learners, see patients, right? It's super important to get all of that in upfront.
Yep.
Even let's say if you have RBT, one thing that we did, we had RBT training as, a few techs would come to us already as RBTs, but even still we did a modified, we did an assessment and then we did a modified training just to check on any pieces to make sure that they were at the level we needed them to be as they were going into clients. But if they were brand new and just doing their RBT training with us, that in itself was, we gave them a timeline, a deadline, and some benchmarks. But then we had to see, they took those self-paced courses on their own. So there was some time management and some staying on task and, asking questions and things like that, even within that portion of the training. So, all right. So moving on to building. So as your company grows, you're also growing leaders within your company too, right? Not everyone's a leader, but that's kind of the idea.
All ABA business leaders.
We're all
don't let her tell you that you're not a leader.
You know what I mean, though, like in more of a lead capacity, right? Because you're going to grow seniority and experience and time with the company and time in ABA. And so this is a point where if you haven't already, you're also starting to delegate more and to give certain staff members certain responsibilities that you are no longer holding. I mean, I know that is what delegating is, but sometimes it's even more than just delegating a few tasks. It's like, hey, okay, now you're taking this and you're the leader of schedules or whatever, right? And so it's a lot easier. Maybe easy is not the right word, but it can be a little more smooth transition when the people that you've hired are like-minded and share those qualities that you're looking for. And it's also important to say that no one you hire is going to be a clone of yourself. A lot of times it's easy to think that we're hiring mini me's.
Yeah, totally.
And
especially
they can
at
just
first BCBA. Yeah.
they can take things and do things exactly like I do. But that's also why it's important to hire a diverse crew of people, because you wanted people who think differently from you. So that also might mean that certain processes and procedures people might see them differently, and you might take the opportunity to be open to, okay, I'm okay with doing things differently as long as we have the same outcome and as long as those steps are all written out so that someone else can follow them if anyone needs to step in. I think it's really easy for us to kind of, because that's why we started our business. We wanted it to be a specific way that we wanted to do it. But building that community helps the community of the people that you want to surround yourself with and work with on the regular. The idea here is that you would have a little more trust with these people too, and that openness to be able to allow them the space to lead and to show up and to let their strengths shine. And I
think that, again, it's like why we talk about vision first is, so what does this look like on a day-to-day basis? What do you not want this? When you walk into the company, you open the office doors, what is it that you're wanting to see? Do you want people in the lunchroom or the break room gossiping about the admin person, and the admin person's gossiping to the BCBA about do you want that? Or do you want everybody communicating? There's trust in the office. There isn't this back talk. There isn't this, the people feel safe to be able to bring issues and concerns up. Which one do you want? And I think that, again, goes back to the intention around hiring, because if you have zero intention when you're hiring, that is probably the more likely outcome, is that you're going to get that incoherent, like everybody's kind of off doing their own thing. No one is really on board with the vision of the company, because the vision of the company is not embedded in the day-to-day functions of the company, because you haven't even embedded your values into the hiring process. So it's really important that it starts there, right? It starts again. Who are you wanting when you bring on an attorney? Do you want an attorney to be able to talk to, right? Do you want to be able to ask questions without feeling like you're an idiot? Same with an accountant. Do you want to be able to ask them questions? Do they need to understand ABA? Is that important to you? It might be or it might not be. I don't know the answer to that, but knowing what is important to you and again, being intentional about it, I think is super important. And that, again, we don't do what we did. So we were like, we can do an ABA company, right? Well, how hard could it be, right? And so then we were building the ladder as we were climbing. We were climbing up it. We were building the airplane on the landing strip, right?
Runway.
Like the runway. There you go. Thank you and that's, again, it's sometimes you're going to be doing that. Sometimes it's just, even if you have everything in place, there are going to be times where it's like, man, that sucked. That was a bad idea. But at least then okay, we tried this thing. This is the reasoning behind trying this. It failed miserably. Now this isn't the right thing to do. But when it especially as you're scaling, having benchmarks in place, how quickly am I going to scale? So important. And then who am I going to hire? Am I going to hire everybody with a heartbeat, or am I going to hire with purpose and that they have to meet some kind of minimum? And I'm not talking about education unless it's a requirement. I'm talking about some kind of value structure of their own. Or are they floating around and they don't even know what they value, right? Like, I need to make some money, so I thought I'd try this ABA thing. I mean, maybe you hire that person. I don't know the answer to that. But it's really important to know what it is that you're looking for in your team, so that you can have long-term success. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but like, do you even trust this person to delegate the task to? And then my question would be, why did you hire this person if you don't trust them? So we've hired the wrong person. Okay, let's oops, But now we know, right? Like, I don't know how many admin people or marketing people that I've hired and said, why did I hire this person? And now we have an amazing admin person. She's the best. And so, like, but we know what we need. And that's because we tried, I don't know, 15 of them, right? And so I think it's sometimes this is just, you're going to have to learn the hard way. But if you can put something in place, says we will not accept these things, then at least you have a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to know the why behind everything that you do, really. Yeah. So some questions you can ask yourself as growers: do my supervisors and managers understand the why behind our decisions? And really, that's how we believe that you should build a team, is based on your values. Values are linked to your why. And so, the intention and the why behind it should generally be there. However, if you have built that safety and that trust and sense of curiosity within the company too, then if they don't know the why behind it, they can come to you and ask you the why behind it. And you may not be able to tell them all of the pieces, depending on what role they play in the company and what you're able to share. But expressing that you are so thankful that they're curious about why, and then giving them the amount of information that you can that's appropriate for the situation.
Right.
Because I get you can't always explain every single decision to every single person of your staff. I mean, you would never get any work done.
Right. But you may not even know the why, right?
Well,
that's a law that we have to follow, or I don't know why they do this. Is dumb to me too. But
you know what? That's a great question. I'm not sure why I put this rule in place or why I ask you guys to do this. Let's think about it together. Let me take a minute and think about it, and I'll get back to you. And then you could be like, hey, you know what? That is kind of dumb. How can we do this differently? Or you could say, oh, I realize, you know what? This is why I did it. Yep. And it might be even I don't really know. But right now, there are X, Y, and Z that are taking priority over this. But when we can get to that thing, right? But that also builds that really builds that community within your staff, within your company. But then I've chatted with BCBA business owners, right? ABA owners who say, and we're going to actually be doing a podcast on this probably in the new year, but how do I shift from being a clinician for someone else's company, or even just myself, to then hiring staff and being like the boss of everybody here? That's a whole thing. I don't think we talk about enough. That's a huge transition. That's a huge skill set. There was a lot of learning that happens during that. If you're there and you're still learning that skill and stumbling through, I think this is something that adopting this attitude can be very helpful, because it can help you to be vulnerable. But I'm not necessarily meaning vulnerability on a personal level. It's still vulnerable within, hey, we're all growing here and we're all learning. And if you can adapt that perspective on things, it can really help to create that atmosphere. If that's what you want. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming here, but it really is going to depend on what you're wanting. But most business owners that I've talked to over the last few years, that's what they want. They want a community. They want connection. They want to show up differently than ABA companies in the past that they had worked for. They don't want it to be dictatorship, or is that the thing where it's like, I tell you what to do and you have to do it because I said so?
Part of it is that. It's just it is at the end of the day yours, right?
Yeah, and so you do, like, there is that. Sometimes it just is, because this is how I want to build this company. And I think there's room for that. I think there's definitely room for that, especially if you have all the other pieces as well. So the other piece that I think can be critical, not just within growth, but also, I mean, all of these things kind of build on each other. So it's also critical as you're starting these new things, as you're starting your business, but communication. I think communication is one of the most important parts, in having that atmosphere, that culture, community where communication is allowed and reinforced. Because I think, and I've heard a lot of stories that people just do what they're going to do because it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
If they talk about it or ask, because there's not openness and there's not that culture to be able to discuss things. It is that, no, this is how we're doing it. And a lot of times I think the business owners, honestly, I don't feel like they mean to come across that way. I just think they don't even know what they're doing. They're uncertain of it for themselves. So therefore, they're just doing it because this is how you're supposed to do it. And they haven't been curious themselves of why they're doing it this way. Or maybe they just threw some things together as they were like, I know I did. There were some things that when I was asked, I was like, I don't know. That's just how you do it, right? There were just some, and I'm not trying to be critical and pick apart these things, but we are just talking about, the people who you want beside you and how to cultivate some of that. So it is we are kind of picking apart some of it.
Sure. I think there's also a limited amount of time, right? There's a limited amount of time. There's a lot of things that need to be put in place. And so you got to pick and choose your battles, right? And so over 15 years of owning a business, maybe you do have, if you didn't have more knowledge after 15 years of owning a business than you did on day one, then
something's wrong there.
What in the world took place there?
Yeah.
So you are going to gain some knowledge.
That being said, even if you've been in business for 15 years, you still have stuff to learn for the next 15 years, right? I mean, we're humans, we're learning, we're growing. But I think the idea here is if we lead with intentionality, with curiosity, with some compassion, but that's, I'm trying not to go into too much of what we're going to talk about in another podcast about the leaders, but it is difficult too, because there are some, when you're the boss and everyone's looking to you and you're no longer like the coworker and you don't get invited out to like a game night or something, right? Because you're like the boss. And you just, or you have a hard time saying no to your staff because you want to be liked and you're not used to being like that next level up, right? There's a lot that goes into that.
Oh, totally.
And there's so many interpersonal, there's a lot, right? And so I think that's a part of it too, is, finding people that you want in your team that you also feel comfortable being yourself with. I don't know.
Yeah.
You think?
I mean,
am I being too woo-woo feely?
I mean, you're
touchy?
being a little bit too, but I'm going to double down on your woo-woo. You need to be comfortable with yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So if you're not comfortable with yourself, I don't know, I mean,
we I don't know that anyone's 100% comfortable with themselves and comfortable with the people they're around, but that's what we strive for. At least I know we do.
I mean, if after how many friggin' podcasts have we done? 150, 60 of these things? Yeah. This is me. This isn't an act. This is just what you get. And don't get upset. So, it's hard to put on an act for a certain amount of time. So the sooner you can put down the act and just say, look, this is how I am. This is how and obviously you need to still be professional, right? You're not going to your coworkers and talking about your marriage and you're right. Like, this is what my mother-in-law did. And you wanted to hear about that, right? Like, you're not going to be talking about that stuff, at least not normally. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't, you want this place, you want to be comfortable in the space that you're building. And, we've heard it several times, but somebody's gone on an extended vacation or they've gone on maternity leave or something like this. And then they've come back and this isn't the company. This is no longer their company, right? Because why? Why did that happen? Probably because you didn't implement the things that you needed to implement when you started it. So I don't know. It's hard. It's very complicated once you have built the system and then you're looking back, how could I have done this a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
So if you can do it from the start, which is, again, you say that at the start of these podcasts, right? Like the earlier you do.
Yeah, my truth telling.
There you go. The earlier you get started on this, the easier it's going to be. And again, you could still have all of these things in place and struggle in some areas because you've no experience in these areas, right?
And we're human.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was just rambling there for 5 minutes. So take what I said or not.
Well, and I think too, like as we transition into talking about the transition stage, like as you're closing, right? Through this growing stage, you want to be developing those people that could eventually lead without you, right?
Yeah, I think you should be doing that during the growing.
That's what I'm saying. That's why, like,
not even the transition, right?
No, but that's why I was leading into the transition, saying that you should be doing it
100%.
throughout the growth period, so that during the transition and closing, like that's not something you're trying to scramble to do, because I don't know that really works.
No, I think it's great if you love what you're doing. I think that's amazing, and I think that every BCBA that does this. Amazing, awesome. I'm so glad that you're out there helping some of the most vulnerable people. Kudos, right? It's a job that I could never do. But, how about you're not going to do this forever. And so you have to figure this out. Who's going to take this on when I'm no longer there? Whether you're selling this company or you're moving to an island and you're going to be, just chilling on a beach. I assume in either one of those scenarios, you're going to want this company to thrive even when you're not there, because it thriving means that the families are getting the services that they desperately need. So the only way that works is if you have built a team that will carry on implementing the things that are important, right? So I think it's you have to build a team that can do this without you. You have to work yourself out of a job. So important.
Yeah. And so I didn't give like the reflection thing or whatever for the growers, but something that you can think about, and I think it goes hand in hand with this as you're growing these people to take over your job. Looking at your decision making processes, like your communication within that and the problem solving around that. And, that's, I guess we could actually do an entire talk about that too, how to use your values to help you with your decision making, right? That's something that I do in like the coaching that I so very enjoy doing is helping you to turn your values into like those questions to check in with yourself. But I think that, and to help you make decisions. So your challenge would be to like look at those, at your values or those qualities and traits, and start coming up with like a little rubric for yourself of how you, or even just starting to take data on, okay, well, how do I naturally do my decision making? Because you might actually have a specific formula, and it may even be based on your values. Or if you're like, I don't have an idea how I do decision making, I just trust my gut. How can you get this decision making into somewhat of a formula so that you can share that with these leaders that you're growing within the company? Because I can't remember the statistic or like the numbers behind it, but a leader within a company, like when you're in the decision maker within the company, that's why they call you a decision maker within the company, is because like you're making like, I can't remember, like hundreds of decisions a day.
Sure.
And it's really, that's the skill that you're using the most, whether you're good at it or not. Right. So kind of honing into that and getting that written down and at least into like a system that you could teach other people how to make those decisions. So moving on to those of you who are thinking about stepping back, like Stephen said, whether it's just stepping back or whether it is to completely sell and step out, the goal shifts to empowering your team, these members that you have been training and supporting and, growing them to take over your job. Now it is to empower them to do so. So a question to ask yourself would be, if I stepped away tomorrow, who could step forward confidently? Not only do you have the procedures and the policies and everything in place and they know them, but they can also act with confidence. Does my team understand my long-term vision well enough to sustain it? So there again, they have to understand the vision in the first place to even be close to stepping in and sustaining that. And then the last question to ask yourself is, am I mentoring the next generation of leaders or just assigning tasks? And I really think I feel like this is going to hit a lot of us like, oh yeah, am I just delegating? Am I just assigning tasks, or am I making it a cooperative process and really talking through it and planning it and explaining the why behind it?
And I think long-term strategies, you want your people to take ownership of these things. So the more purpose they have in their job, the more they understand the reasoning why, and the more flexibility you allow in the process, as long as the outcome is what you need it to be, then the better these things will work, right? Again, having your values system as your guardrails, and then allowing them to use those values to create this system and see how they did, right? How did they use? And you may see an outcome, right? The outcome that you want, but the process, and you may see your values implemented in a way that you didn't even think was possible. So
it can be really cool. And I think that's, as you're a starter moving into a grower, especially, that's where the micromanaging tends to really fall apart.
Yes.
And if you've somehow managed to continue to haphazardly micromanage and deal with all the stress that comes with that throughout your growing years, and now you are at the closing years and you're still at that level, the chances are, if you're closing because of that, potentially, right? Because you can only do that for so long.
I think that if you're still micromanaging, again, it depends on the degree of micromanaging.
Of course, I mean, this is a general conversation.
But if you're still heavily micromanaging your team, at the end, you're going to be disappointed in what you can get for your company, the hard work that you put in. Absolutely. So you're going to have to put in a certain amount of hours over a certain amount of time to make this company. So you get to decide at the end of this game, do I want enough to retire, or is it more important that I have complete control over everything and I have to have my hands on all the cookie jars and I need to keep my Mighty Mouse suit on all the time? Or am I going to build something that lasts even when I'm not there? Those are the decisions that you get to make, right? And neither one is wrong. It's just, what outcome do you want? That's your choice. It's but if you're wanting a multi-clinic, multi-state, larger organization, that's it'll probably take years of your life, right, off, because of the amount of stress and burden that you're putting on yourself. Again, it is what it is. And I, like, as far as micromanaging and scaling effectively, I give myself a C- most of the time when we were building a company. So don't.
Such a hard, it's a skill.
Yeah, and so I don't want this to come off as like, oh well, we knew exactly what to do when we did it. That's not what happened. We made so many mistakes, and that's part of why we're doing what we're doing, is because, hey, maybe you can not make the same dumb mistakes I made.
Well, and too, as Stephen has been talking to business leaders for years, and many years, and then, I guess now I have been for a few years. Mm-hmm. It was very validating to me to hear these stories firsthand of, you're not alone. And that's why we talk about these things. It's not because there's just one person out there who's having this issue and we're pointing our finger at you. It's just you. It's
just you, Margaret. You're listening. And I know it's just you.
Why a woman? It's you, Fred.
Okay. Chris. It's definitely Chris.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So anyways, like, it's because we all struggle with these things. I mean, it's just how it is. And are we going to listen to one podcast and be perfect? Or are we going to try a new thing and be perfect? Of course not. I wish we could. We'd make a lot of money on this podcast. But it's just, we're saying we're here with you, and here's some ideas. Here's some things to think about. Here's some things to call up another business owner, business leader in your community, in your town, and say, hey, have you thought about this? How are you doing this? I'd love to hear how you're doing this. Or I know that there's this thing that can be so challenging. I've heard about it being challenging to so many business owners, and I kind of think I'm figuring it out. Can I share it with you? Reach out to someone in your area. You guys need each other. We're all here doing the same work with probably the same overall intention of providing quality, beyond quality, excellent services to individuals on the spectrum and their families. So, yeah. All right. So on that note,
like, subscribe, do me a favor and share the podcast to someone that has not heard it.
That's how you can reach out. That's how you can reach out to the other ABA company down the street. Be like, hey, I've been listening to this podcast. Sometimes it's helpful. Here you go. Sharing it with you.
Yeah, totally.
Like what I did there. So like, subscribe. We're on, if you want to see us in person, you can. Well, not in person, but like see us. If you want to watch this podcast, not in person. Sorry, we're not going on any kind of tour anytime soon.
Might be fun.
Next year, you might see us at some conferences. But yeah, so if you want to be able to watch our podcast, we are on YouTube. And then of course we're here where you're listening to us now, and we're on any major podcast audio platform, whatever's. Yeah.
Did you call them IOs? What's an IO?
IO. Yeah, podcast. I don't know. What did I say?
I thought I meant podcast
platforms.
IO. Oh, okay. Anyway. And then if you do want the CEUs for this, you do have to sign up for it. And you have to watch it in our system and then take the quiz and all that stuff. Just letting you know. So if you're like, oh man, I want the CEUs, you may want to listen to the podcast in there, right? So that you don't have to do it twice.
Yeah, I guess so.
But if you just like hearing our voices, then and you'll get those ad free too, right? So well, not ad free, but YouTube ad free. So
gotcha. All right. Well, if you have any questions for us, or you have any stories that you want to share, we have a what do we have? Hotline. So our hotline number is 737-330-1448. And then you press 1, like option 1, and then you can leave us a question or leave us a story. We'd love to hear from you. So, let us know, maybe let us know about your community that you're creating within your company, or any barriers that you have or questions that you have about it. We'd love to hear. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to hang out with us a little today, and we can't wait to see you next time.
See ya.